Players and league officials still can't reach a deal on a new CBA.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm Clea Butler, your sideline reporter. Alongside me is Sophia Jones, your analyst. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, the roadmap for today, as you can see in the corner, USA. We'll get into how 3v3 went overseas. NCAA standout performances from this past week that we have seen, and a new update on the CBA negotiations within the WNBA. So if you haven't heard the news just yet, the WNBA and the WNBA Players Association agreed to an extension on the current CBA through January 9th as they look to continue for negotiations towards a new deal, which they announced on Sunday night. Reminder, either party has the option to terminate the extension with 48 hours advance notice. It was getting to that November 30th deadline after an extension that they had already applied from October. Now we will have to see if they can come to terms with anything by January 9th. But there has been some updates even just within the past couple of hours from the extension being added on. The WNBA has now proposed something new to the WNBPA, including a maximum salary in 2026 featuring a guaranteed $1 million base with a projected revenue sharing pushing total earnings for max players to more than $1.2 million. So for the salaries, for the base salary for minimum salary for players would be $500,000, projected to exceed $225,000, which would increase to $5 million in 2026, according to sources, and be directly tied to revenue growth in each year of the deal. That's a lot of numbers I just threw at you, which I'm going to throw it to Sophia now, actually, because she's very good at breaking down these numbers compared to me.
Well, the 1.2 million is definitely an increase. Even in the last proposal that the WNBA offered the players, it was a potential earning of 1.1 million. That was a combination of the base salary plus revenue share. However, that little sentence at the very end that you mentioned with the salary cap will be tied directly to revenue growth in each year of the deal is where I think the players' attentions will most be diverted to. Right now, the WNBA is growing at an exponential rate, so players want their salary structure to model that same exponential growth. Under the current CBA, the WNBA has a proposed fixed linear system that the players do not want to continue that same way. So that's what the biggest holdup is. Yes, the more money is great, but because the players are so concerned at the growth of the league as a whole, they really want to shoot for a salary structure that is proportional to league growth.
And it seems like that part has still been a little bit unclear throughout the offers that the league is presenting. And I think, we talked about this before. When we see those big numbers of, $1 million, 1.1, $1.2 million, everybody expects the players to kind of be like, oh, that's a large number. Is that not what you guys want? I think, as you mentioned, the key focus here is they're comparing it to the NBA, not saying that they're necessarily going to get the same numbers as the NBA, and that's not what they're asking for either. But it makes the most sense since the WNBA is technically a structure of the NBA, if you will. It makes the most sense for them to be getting paid the same way that NBA players are. As you mentioned, this league is growing rapidly. New leagues are being developed. people care about women's sports. They care about women's basketball. We saw the WNBA have the highest TV ratings that they've ever had within the past couple of seasons. Obviously, part of that being due to Caitlin Clark. You have Asia Wilson, who is a 4-time MVP. People are tuning in. People want to see what's up. That's why we have platforms like this to talk about it, because people want to see what's up with the WNBA and women's basketball. So they're looking for that shared revenue, because at this point, we expect the league to continue growing, especially when we're looking at these expansion teams, which is also going to be bringing in more revenue. Sophia, you work with the Golden State Valkyries. We saw how well they did this season. I know we mentioned them a lot, but Golden State was also just voted to be one of the best places for sports in general, specifically women's sports as of late. And when you're looking at that list, you also see some of the areas that the expansion teams are going to, like a Portland, like a Toronto. So you want to see that growth continue to translate to what the players should be earning, because it just is what makes the most sense. But it just seems like with all of this, there's been a little bit of a gray area still, which is why the players have not necessarily responded in terms of agreeing to anything yet.
Definitely. And like you said and put it perfectly, we're getting these reports. They're still a little bit ambiguous in regards to that salary structure, which is the main thing that the players are fighting for. But on the topic of expansion teams, this prolonged extension of the current CBA also affects the upcoming expansion drafts. Last season, the Golden State Valkyries had theirs at the beginning of December, so right around this time of year. And in order for an expansion draft to be held, the rules of the upcoming expansion draft will be determined by the new CBA. So the deal has to be done first. That's already one caveat of this extension that we're seeing, but also free agency. At first, November 30th, no one was too concerned about that because, I mean, it doesn't push up too much on the next WNBA season, but we're already talking about the new year in 2026. And for free agency, teams usually extend qualifying offers and core designations starting January 11th. And with all but 2 WNBA players that are not on rookie scale contracts, they'll be exercising that free agency. A prolonged extension could give players less time to shop around, quite frankly.
Which is, as you mentioned, a very good point, because a couple episodes ago, we mentioned the laundry list of free agents that are going to be available in this 2026 draft. And we haven't heard any of that movement either, because CBA haven't been agreed to just yet. So, you still want to make sure that this is all preparing the WNBA to have another fantastic season. And part of that plays into roster structure, obviously. Who's going to be on what team? What team do I have to root for now because my player got traded or they decided to move on? So there's a lot that goes into this still, but as of late, as of the newest agreement so far, they have not come to one, and the new extension is going to be postponed to January. The last CBA that they had was also postponed to January, and they were able to come to an agreement after that. So we are hoping that is the same for this newest CBA agreement. But that is all the updates we have on that. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the NCAA standout performances from the week. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more on less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. PrizePicks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Alrighty, some standout performances that we've seen from the NCAA. We're going to start off with Audie Crooks, who had a big night for Iowa State. 47 points on 19 of 25 shooting, setting a single game scoring record for Iowa State. But that performance also extended her double figures scoring streak to 76 consecutive games, nearly her entire collegiate career thus far. And on top of that, her 19 made field goals also passed a long-standing program mark, moving her into the top 5 in Iowa State history in career field goals. You talk about a girl making history. She already did towards the beginning of the season, where she had a 50-point performance. Now she's come back 47 points, but setting all of these brand new records. I love Audie Crooks. We talked about this before, but she really is that girl, and she is proving it early on in the season.
She definitely is. She is so dominant, the epitome of interior dominance, I think, at this point in the season. When you're talking about 19 of 25 shooting, that's just mic and drill. You're just catching the ball, just going layup for layup right then and there. And I think another point for that matchup too is Iowa State, they did win that game. They won that game 106-95, but it was against Indiana. So during this time, there are a couple schools that are still playing less competitive games. No, this was a competitive matchup that Audie Crooks just owned. So I'm extremely impressed by her, and I think for Iowa State as a whole, if you can continue to have performances like this out of her, they're definitely going to make some noise. And I'll also shout out to Jada Williams, the transfer from Arizona. I think she's really starting to fit into this team seamlessly, and that inside-out action between her and Audie Crooks has been dangerous.
Yes, really loved what we've seen from the transfer. I do believe she also has kind of found her fit there, which is great to see. Some additional standouts. Flau'jae Johnson led the way in their game, in LSU's game against Washington State, beating them 112-35 to capture the Paradise Jam Reef Division title. She had 16 points. It was a really balanced scoring attack for LSU that day, but she led the way with 16 points. And the Tigers now own 8 straight games with 100-plus points, which is a new NCAA era benchmark for sustained high scoring. LSU is still kind of at the phase where they haven't played anybody too big just yet, which is why we're maybe seeing these 100-plus point performances, but nonetheless very impressive to be putting up 100-plus points. And when Flau'jae Johnson has 16 points, which is very impressive, but you know how easily she can go get a bucket, LSU is also showing very balanced scoring, which is great to see. Another standout is Ali Zybel from UConn, who had 16 points, who just started their Big East play against Xavier, and they won that game 104-39. And Sarah Strong stepped in with 14 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, and 6 steals. UConn obviously doing UConn things.
Yeah, to have someone consistently that is not Sarah Strong or AZ Fudd kind of make those headlines and be a leader in some area is just such a reflection on how deep UConn is. And to immediately start their Big East conference play with a dominant win like that, 104-39, they're not looking like they're going to slow down anytime soon.
Not at all. And I think that's why we spoke about them probably maybe going undefeated this season, but the potential to at least win it all once again. Some standouts for UCLA. Gabriela Jaquez had 29 points on 10 of 14 shooting, and 5 of 6 from 3 to beat Tennessee. Kiki Rice added in 20 points and 11 rebounds. We're going to get a little bit more into the UCLA-Tennessee game. I'm going to let Sophia hop in on that one. But Aaliyah Chavez from Oklahoma had 29 points to lead them in a victory over Florida State, which was 109-91. And, of course, have to shout out to the Orange at Syracuse. Uche Izoje in a 78 to 62 win over Howard. She had 20 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 blocks in 28 minutes. The big Orange, not the little one. But Janiyah Barker, in that game against Tennessee versus UCLA, she had 25 points in Tennessee's loss to her former school, UCLA. But there was some mild controversy that happened afterwards when it came to the handshake line post-game.
So essentially, the camera, it cuts to Janiyah Barker and Corey Close. There could have been a little bit of a beginning portion that was cut off, but essentially what the audience is shown is Janiyah Barker not shaking head coach Corey Close's hand, and then Corey Close kind of getting a shrug and a smile, a little bit perplexed as to maybe what warranted that reaction is the kind of impression that I got from that situation. But obviously, like you mentioned, Janiyah Barker, she was a member of the UCLA Bruins last year. It feels good when you lose to the team that you transferred from. UCLA beat Tennessee 99-77. So it was pretty convincing as well, despite Barker's solid performance. But the kick of the situation also comes later when Janiyah Barker posted on social media, quote, "We shook hands. I wish nothing but the best for Coach Corey," end quote. And she spelled Coach Corey's name wrong. So her name is spelled Cori, and Janiyah Barker spelled it Corri. So threw in an extra R there. We don't know if that was intentional or not, but it is kind of it's an interesting situation, essentially.
That's a good way to put it. Interesting situation, might raise a couple of eyebrows. I don't know how strongly I always feel about players responding to situations like that right away, especially just since she did also spell the coach's name wrong. I'm not going to overly give my opinion about this because I don't know what the situation is between Janiyah Barker or Coach Corey. So that is for them to figure out, and however the schools want to handle that, if they even draw more attention to it. But I will say it's always good to be cautious of being on TV when you are playing these games, because even as you mentioned, the interaction looks completely different to the internet, whoever the case may be, people that aren't maybe going to do any further research than looking at the video that has come up on their timeline, seeing that it just kind of looks like she brushes the coach off in general. We don't see that initial handshake just because of camera angles, timing, switching things over. It's not anybody's fault in that case. However, it's about the response afterwards. Obviously, Coach Corey has not said anything from UCLA. That's why when it comes to Janiyah Barker responding, I don't know if it's just, you allow people to banter in your comments and just leave it at that than having to draw any more attention to what the case may be. Emotions are high. You lost to your former team. It's understandable. But sometimes the best response is no response at all.
Exactly. And again, in that situation, we don't know the whole context of it. We don't know the past history between those two. We don't even know if the clip or what was shown on TV is a full representation of what happened in that situation. but this is the information that we've been given, and this is how it looks, essentially.
Exactly. But coming up next, USA Women's 3v3 brings home gold in FIBA AmeriCup.
NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
Nobody is a bigger bandwagon than honestly me when it comes to the Olympics. And I don't care if I've never seen the sport in my life. I'm always rooting Team USA. This is a little bit different as it's the FIBA AmeriCup, but it still stands true. America on top once again, beating Brazil, beating Jamaica, doing it all with this new 3v3 group that we saw, which I love the addition of 3v3. I think it is so cool to watch these players excel in this and it be on a national scale. Obviously, we have Unrivaled and everything now, but being able to go up against another country doing this is pretty cool. Sophia, can you give us the breakdown of how they were able to come away with the gold?
Yeah, I'll first start off with, though, I am definitely in agreement with you with, you get extra patriotic around Olympic time with Team USA. However, when it does come to track and field, half my family is Jamaican, so I will be rooting for a lot of the Jamaicans there. Anyways, for the group stage that the USA was in, they actually came in as a number 2 seed because they lost to Canada in overtime last year. So in their group, they're with Brazil, who they beat 21-10. They beat Jamaica 21-15. All these games are to 21, of course. And so they came first in their pool and then advanced to the knockout stage, where in the quarterfinals, they beat Argentina 22-4. And then in the semifinals, beat the Dominican Republic 21-5. So pretty dominant up until that point. And for the finals, they played Canada, who they beat 21-19. So a really close and competitive matchup. US had a small lead, kind of the majority of the game. Then Canada took the lead and tied it up late, but they were a possession away from scoring 21 and taking home gold before USA has some key plays to win the game, specifically when Alicia Gray got fouled when USA was tied 19-19 and made the 2 free throws to seal the game. That also helped to seal her winning MVP. And on the team of the tournament, she finished with 9 points that game and was really the offensive driver for the majority of this tournament. And of also to note, the group stages were played a couple days ago, but the 3 games or the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the finals were all played on Sunday. So these was not much rest at all. And I think you could definitely tell with some of the players where they would get subbed out and they'd just be, bent over trying to catch their breath a little bit. They were playing outside as well. I don't know what the temperature is in Leon, Mexico, but that always plays a factor when you're dealing with different conditions. But yeah, just a team with Veronica Burton, Alicia Gray, Naz Hillman, and Shakira Austin. They did their thing, and I'm glad to see the gold back in the USA's closet.
And I love that you mentioned that they're playing outside on top of it, because I feel like that is a very significant factor, especially if you're anyone that's like me and I'm in Chicago right now. They were training in North Carolina, but there's snow on the ground. It is cold. To transfer from that to going to Mexico and probably playing outside in humidity, that is a significant difference even than just playing inside. But also, that difference between, people just playing basketball and people hooping. Like if you're playing outside, you're out there hooping. It's just the definition of just like street ball at that point. And I think that's why they're able to excel so much, especially Alicia Gray coming away with the MVP. who also had to even be convinced to do this by Elena Deladon. So I'm sure Elena Deladon is looking at her like, girl, I told you, you better go do this. And Alicia Gray, I'm sure, is very excited that she did. The other players, as a reminder, Naz Hillman, Veronica Burton, and Shakira Austin were all part of this 3v3 tournament that came home with the gold. Really exciting to see. I can't keep mentioning it enough. It's just really fun basketball to watch. And when you get to see these WNBA players, we speak about what's going on with CBA, all of the above. But when you see these players from this past season playing in the summer, obviously, being able to talk, interview all of them, it's just like exciting to see them win outside of the league too. You just feel like a relative connection to them. That's why the league is so important. But let me not get on my soapbox. But you just feel excited when they are excelling in other areas in the sport, but being able to do it outside of just the league. So really exciting stuff. Really glad that this was able to come away with a win. I'm very curious to see what this upcoming season will look like for them, and even some players that are going to be on Unrivaled doing so as well.
Yeah, I think that when you kind of look forward to the next WNBA season, it's because you had the most improved player of the year in Veronica Burton, one of the runner-ups in Alicia Gray for that award there. Sixth one of the year, Naz Hillman and Shakira Austin. Of course, I think she's on a great trajectory to be an all-star, but they're all very early in their careers, and I think having this when you can attain a certain level of success, no matter on what level, it makes you want to continue that in all areas. So I could definitely see this winning gold being motivating for them as they're taking it to their unrivaled squads, as well as the WNBA as well. But I mean, you talk about just that the pace of that finals game, essentially the pace and the physicality. That I mentioned them looking gassed, but you like not a lot of fouls were called, but you get a rebound, you bring it out, come back, it's just go, 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 go. So I can imagine there'll be a good celebration, a little bit of rest in there as well. But some of these players also have USA training camp to expect coming up, but a lot of just positive momentum moving forward for this group. And you could tell when Alicia Gray, she hit that final free throw to win the game for them, they all just converged and started jumping and screaming at each other with smiles on their face. So a lot of joy in that sentiment.
Exactly. As you mentioned, still so much basketball to look forward to, from NCAA to Unrivaled coming up next month. You talk about Team USA training, all the above. There's a lot more basketball to be discussed and to talk about. But thank you so much for watching Locked On Women's Basketball. We will see you guys again tomorrow. Remember to follow Sophia and I on our socials, and we will see you guys again soon.